Hey, welcome back to the Weekly Sip. If you're a new viewer, I'm True. That's Madison, and that's Romeo. So, here at this podcast, we dive into controversial events to just get a better understanding and, try and understand the case a little bit better. But last week, we broke down a case dealing with adultery, and this week, we deal with two Stanford students, an undergraduate and a graduate, Chanel Miller and Brock Turner from Stanford University.
So what's your guys' understanding of this case?
Well, back in 2015, a student named Brock Turner from Stanford University was found on top of an unconscious body outside a frat party behind a dumpster. And two other men came across Turner on top of this unconscious body, and they tried to intervene and stop him, but he decided that he wasn't going to stop and ran, but they caught him, thankfully. He just ended up with a few scuffs and bruises on him, which we have a picture of. And he tried fleeing the scene only to be caught by the two men where they shouted, where they would call the police once they, got a hold of him. And once the officers got to Chanel's body, who was the unconscious body that he was on top of, they tried waking her doing the shake and shout method, but she was so drunk that she was not waking up. When the police arrived, she had 20.22% alcohol in her bloodstream, which is almost about, blood alcohol poisoning levels. And when she actually woke up the next morning, she had no recollection of what had happened the night before. And when this was all presented in case, in court, this case would be very controversial due to the fact that Turner would only be sentenced to 6 months and only serve 3 of those 6 months.
The original charge was 5 counts of rape?
Yeah.
5 counts. Yeah, I think it's crazy because him only getting sentenced to 6 months and then only serving 3, but there was many people who were even surprised that he got convicted at all.
Yeah. It's really just kind of a surprising thing to think about, especially from all the evidence that I gathered. It seems very plausible that he should have been going away for much longer than he did.
Well, knowing his academic achievements in Stanford, it's actually kind of surprising to a lot of the peers and teachers at his university because they never expected him to do such a terrible action. And he's always been the outgoing icon, the pinnacle of achievement and education.
Okay, so what kind of an impact did her statement have on the case? Was it really that important? Was it necessary?
Knowing that Aaron Persky, he was actually his judge, a former Stanford athlete, graduate, and he took Leslie's words to heart. He thought that just because he consumed alcohol, that it was okay for those actions to be justified, and he shortened his sentence by many, many years, which people did not sit right with that at all.
Yeah, because he could have had up to 14 years, but was given only 6 months.
Sucks.
Yeah, and honestly, if you look at the way that Persky responded to their statements, he was not genuine at all. I also think that Aaron Persky was very biased when he was listening to Turner and Chanel's statements because he seemed to only really listen to Turner's statement. Chanel gave this lengthy, very emotional statement, and Turner basically did a small little apology and he got off the hook like that.
Yeah, no. For reference, I actually have what he said. He said, "My mind, my heart, my body agonizes over the suffering and pain I've caused on Chanel," which to, say isn't enough for what he did. And it's not enough words and, that's what I'm looking for. Remorse for his actions. A sorry may fix that I pushed somebody over, but a sorry is not going to fix that I touched somebody inappropriately.
Exactly.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Especially something like that never is wiped from, recollection.
In her mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I actually read somewhere that she was embarrassed for even trying to make her 12-page statement. She, reported that somewhere. I don't remember where exactly, but she did say that. I remember seeing her say that.
Yeah, she actually, she also said that she had went into her, when she was reading her victim statement, she noticed that people were listening, in the jury.
Yeah.
So actually while she was giving her victim statement, she was pretty confident because she noticed that the jury was actually listening. So she was very disappointed with Turner's sentence and
felt highly unjust for, time given.
Yes, exactly. Actually in her statement she talked about or she addressed one of Turner's arguments that he was too drunk and that he couldn't make the best decisions. And she actually said that you said being drunk, I couldn't make the best decisions, and neither could she. But alcohol is not an excuse. We were both drunk. I did not take off your pants and touch you inappropriately and run away. Which I think is actually a very powerful statement because, there were other people there that were drunk and no one else was convicted of attempted rape. I think that using alcohol as an excuse is another way to give Turner the one-up on Chanel Miller.
Yeah, in her case, for sure. I 100% agree because, that was one of his main statements was that he, had no previous, experience with alcohol or drugs or anything of that sort. But, when it actually came down to it and the police got into his phone, and they seen that he had a more than enough experience with not just alcohol, but marijuana and acid.
I think a great quote to summarize this case would be from Darlene Kuna. She said, "Alcohol doesn't rape people, people rape people." And it's under the influence and self-control of people that brings light their darkness. And if they want to control themselves in that way, then it's not alcohol, it's them.
Absolutely. No, for sure, because everyone has heard the saying of, drunk words are sober thoughts. And if those are his sober thoughts, then, who's to say what he would do?
Exactly.
And going back to the many, rumors and counts of sexual assault that people say he's done, from all over the school, many women came forward after his trial and confirmed that he does questionable actions. There's a similar case going around. It's very controversial and of similar taste to the Brock Turner case. Brandon Vandenberg of Vanderbilt University in Tennessee. Vandenberg was actually sentenced to 16 years in prison for 3 counts of rape and 4 counts of sexual assault. And people are in an uproar and have addressed this, that Turner actually only got 6 months. Well, technically 3 months because of good behavior. But Vandenberg's is concerning because his judge charged him with multiple years of actually less charges than what Turner was originally charged for. And it was down to questioning whether or not it was due to their socioeconomic class. And Brandon Vandenberg's judge, also Aaron Persky, as he oversaw both of the cases, it's important to note that because it's the same judge, it's not of a different bias, and it is of the same character, the same person. Now, we must note that Vandenberg actually had less money and lived in a poorer district with less resources, and despite having similar level of testimony and defenses from family and friends, he still got a much harsher sentencing. And the only tie to really question whether or not it was socioeconomic class was, and that it leads me to believe that regarding social class, it may be that the bias towards Turner and Vandenberg might be through social class because of their economic status. And Vandenberg was not as clean cut and in a poorer district. Like, his university has a lot less money and in a much worse rank than Stanford, which is near an Ivy League university. And it's questionable whether or not his intentions were to promote a person with more successful achievements versus someone who had less in life.
So I think it, maybe could have been social economics that really took this one, which is sad, but what can you do? When you have wealth, you have power, and just kind of puts people on a pedestal, which sucks. That's all right. Well, thank you for coming and, listening to what we brought to the table. It has been an interesting ride with both Chanel Miller and Brock Turner and Judge Persky because, he likes to be biased. As far as I think anyways, historically, just from, that case with Brandon Vandenberg, my bad. And comparing it with the Brock Turner case, it doesn't add up, and I think it's just the judge, and I don't think he belongs in his position any longer. What about you, Romeo?
Well, yeah, I agree. I don't believe that Chanel Miller should be even subjected to any blame for it, and that all of the actions done by Turner are unspeakably horrible. And all in all, I think due to the social class of Turner and comparing him to Brandon Vandenberg, it's clear that the judge definitely had some social class bias, and it's important that he be addressed and taken off of his Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Action.
And I hope that Chanel Miller can be a representative for any victim involved in rape cases, because even though she went through a lot of hard stuff during this case, there were some changes made, and I think even in people's hearts too, people were able to think more about their biases towards women or anyone in lower class, like you said, and I think that I think Chanel Miller deserves a cheers.
Yeah.
For Chanel
Miller. She deserves it. But yeah, that was our case dealing with Brock and Chanel Miller.
Thank you for joining us during the weekly sip.
Yeah.